In 1769, Captain James Cook set foot on and mapped out New Zealand. Shortly thereafter, in 1788, England started sending some of its prisoners to the nearby Australian colony. And then finally, on June 28, 2000, Blizzard Entertainment released Diablo 2. These three equally important historic events led up to one of the most important game design questions ever posited by the visionary philosopher Chris Wilson.
The god.
What if meth had a skill check?
Wait, what? Myth. Is he saying that Chibi is like myth? I guess that's what he's saying. Oh, shit. Okay. I've never done myth, so I wouldn't know.
Path of Exile is a free-to-pay ARPG with a heavy focus on crafting, itemization, and customizable character progression. And when I say heavy focus, I mean focus like a gacha gamer searching for any semblance of a pinching emoji. This is essentially a spreadsheet masquerading as a video game. Now, you may have heard that this game is infamously overcomplicated, but I am here to assure you that is not the case. It's so much worse than you can think.
Oh, okay. Dude, stop. Why this fake news propaganda is why no one plays the game, bro? And it becomes this ultra niche autist community because everyone thinks it's complicated when actually, in fact, it looks complicated. But in reality, it's very simple. It's very simple.
Okay, so it's a little hostile towards new players. You will see unironic forum posts with subjects like, I'm a relatively new Path of Exile player with only 500 hours in the game. How do I? This is because every few months, Path of Exile releases a new league. What's a league? About 18,230 feet, but in Path of Exile terms, it's a full character and economy reset bundled with a new central mechanic. Now, most games are happy to power creep their old content into irrelevance, but the drooling psychopaths at Grinding Gear Games said, what if everything was always relevant? Forever. This means that there are dozens of core concepts over the last decade that you need to understand in order to reach this game's true end game, getting a fancy belt. But
wait, you don't need to understand all the end games. You can just specialize in like one or two. What you literally don't need to. You literally don't need to. I'm just saying you don't need to. You can just play the game, chat. If you're looking at playing PoE and you want to try, you can just ignore every mechanic except one. Pick one. Get good at that. Just figure out how to use the trade website. Boom, you're good to go.
Before we can dress you up in more high-end goods than Peter Nygaard, first we're going to have to commit more crimes than Peter Nygaard.
Who the fuck is Peter Nygaard?
We create a new account, log in, and create a new character. What character should you pick? Oh, Muffin. We're nowhere near being able to answer that.
Who the fuck is Peter Nygaard? Peter Nygaard. So he's a Finnish-Canadian businessman, former fashion executive, and convicted sex offender. What the hell?
That question. So for now, just go with whoever you think looks cool. To help you decide, here's a quick breakdown of each exile. The Templar is a religious man who tried to convince the church that Has-Been Hotel was canon and was justifiably excommunicated. The only thing longer than his religious ramblings is his neck. The Shadow here ate the rich, and they notoriously dislike when people do that. Based off of his looks, he probably listens to MCR, so you know not to feel too bad for him. After that, we have the Marauder, a character model after the weakest Maori warrior, literally exiled for being too much of a Chad. The Scion killed her husband on their wedding night, and far worse, refused to return any of my wedding gifts. She needs to be literally unlocked in Act 3. The Ranger was banished for being a tomboy, which, as we all know, causes rampant bisexuality. The damage was incalculable. The Duelist is a true man amongst men. He was cheated in a duel, so he cheated his opponent out of a pulse. And finally, we have the Witch, a pick-me girl who was banished for committing the worst crime known to New Zealand, writing bad Lore Olympus fanfic, also murder. In case it isn't obvious.
Shout out to GGG. After playing all these other games, dude, with all the DEI, bro, DEI forced implants, where you gotta go for a whole gender selection menu and everything. Yo, GGG to say, yo, you are gonna play some old guy with a fucking gigantic neck. No, you are gonna play the fucking, Giga Chad Marauder. This is your sex, bro. All right, you don't get to choose, dog. There is no spectrum. It's just that you are told what you are, and that's the end of that. Boom.
I'm known to New Zealand, writing bad Lore Olympus fanfic, also murder. In case it isn't obvious by now, I don't know what the hell is going on here. I'm not sure anyone does. I've finished this campaign multiple times, and I still don't know why I have to acquire the Staff of Virginity before I'm allowed to punch God in the heart. Because it doesn't matter. We're not really here for the campaign. So just like Tai Killer, I'm going to speedrun us through it so that we can get to the real game. We wake up on the shores of Rayclast, aka...
I don't have a clue either. I'm gonna be honest. I've never done a lore playthrough, and I don't have a fucking clue, bro. There it is.
Or accurate Australia and start a very bare bones tutorial for skills, links, and combat. Skills come in the form of colored gems that are either active or supportive. These gems go into colored sockets on your gear, which are connected by links. With this system, you can boost any active skill gem with any supportive gems so long as they are linked and compatible. For example, taking Burning Arrow and supporting it with Pierce so that we can achieve double the arson in a single shot. Want to know more? Too bad. Moving on.
That's the most confusing part about PoE in my opinion. Like the gem system is more complicated and confusing and blows my mind far more than the skill tree ever did. Okay, don't get it twisted. When I played PoE initially the first time, I could not understand. I was like, wait, what do you mean the skill is in a gem? Wait, it's in an item that's not a part of my character. I was like, what do you? No, the skill goes on the character. You pick the assassin guy, and then he has the skill. That's how it works. You don't have. It literally was mind-bending, bro. Every game I'd ever played in my entire life up until this point, the skill was on the character. It was never on the gem. Okay? It was never on the gem. Always on the character. And it took me straight up, days of playing the game to get used to it. Days. And that was like forcing myself to play it because everyone was like, nah, dude, trust me. PoE's going to be crazy, bro. Like, just get used to the skill system. It's good. And then once you get used to it, hey, boom.
Not going to be spending too much time in the worst vacation zone known to man unless you're playing hardcore mode. If you clicked that funny box at character creation, well, you might want to bring some sunscreen. Personally, I don't play hardcore mode for the same reason I don't do CBT. While some people enjoy it, I'm afraid to die and I'm probably not going to finish. We kill Hillock, an NPC whose lore will get you banned in general chat for discussing it, and make our way into town. It's an ARPG safe zone. You know the drill. Vendors, quests, waypoints, stash, the works. We also get our first skill point, so hold on. Let me get the boss music going. Okay, let's get the scary part over with. The moment you've all been waiting for. So, skill tree is a bit of an understatement. Technically, it's a skill graph. Be not afraid. Here's a quick tutorial in graph theory to help you along. Catch all that? Let me break it down. Basically, all characters get the same skill tree, but your class determines where you...
Once you're used to it, like chat, does that scare you at all now that you play PoE a ton? To me, this just looks like a map of a city that I've have lived in for years and years and years. It's just like, it's not even intimidating at all. It just looks like a Google map. That's all it is. It's a Google map which has keynotes on it.
Of dots. This tangled mess of progression is divided into 3 sections: intelligence, strength, and dexterity. Each section is packed with clusters made up of small passives leading up to a notable passive, the taking of which unlocks a mastery related to the cluster. There's some other stuff, but don't worry about it for now. It looks scary, but for now, just pick whatever skills make you stronger or whatever keeps you alive longer. There are too many layers of offense and defense to cover in a guide like this, but just path towards whatever you think is interesting or you feel you need more of. Really, that's it. See, it's not so bad, at least until we get to the end of the campaign. After that, well, we'll get there. Anyway, time to move on and rip through the...
literally delete cluster... Bro, change my mind. Deleting cluster jewels from the game makes Path of Exile objectively better. Okay? It just makes it... I think cluster jewels remove flavor from the game. I get it gives you a... Well, do you know what? Fuck, I would even argue maybe it removes some choices. It removes some choices because, cluster jewels becomes the de facto best in slot setup. And then you just start stacking cluster jewels. And those are the most boring dog shit trees ever. I hate them. And on top of that, it makes the game way more confusing to new players. It's like, so it removes flavor. And bro, I just delete cluster. I hope cluster jewels don't make it a PoE 2. Fuck them, bro. Fuck cluster jewels, bro. Okay, and that's speaking to someone who's used cluster jewels all the time. Pretty much every other character I've used cluster jewels. It is what it is. I still don't like him.
Campaign. After avoiding a gaggle of British people, we hit the hardest area in the game where we get bodied by whatever the hell Aroa is. If you can make it past this zone, you can make it through the rest of the campaign. We kill a mermaid, wipe out some Aztecs piloting the world's slowest battle mech, and then savage the blood dungeon so that we can get shown the true face of God. And that's just acts 1, 2, and 3 of 10. Now we just have to kill the devil from the Bible. So that we can return to Oriath, where we can finally kill God or die trying. We die trying. Lucky for us, the concept of sin or something saves us. I wasn't really paying attention. Anyway, back to the beach. Now Act 1 is Act 6, and we get to run through a remix of all the acts. We help a mermaid deal with her crabs before finding out what happens when someone watches way too much interspecies reviewers. After that, we settle a sibling dispute the hard way so that we can run through the blood aqueducts 20 times before facing down the diabetes demon. Finally, we get our rematch with God, but this time we brought the right MacGuffin. The Kitava boss fight is actually a pretty great end of the campaign. It's a pretty hard fight your first few times through, and it feels appropriately epic, but hey, that's it. You did it. 20 to 30 hours in, and you...
Kitava's a great boss fight. Change my mind. We don't need to change my mind. It's just objectively true. Kitava's better than all boss fights in the entirety of D4, right? Legitimately, there's not a single boss fight in the entirety of D4, including the expansion, that's better than Kitava. Like, I'm not even kidding. And this is just like some basic ass boss. But I mean, don't wrong. For its time, whenever it was pinnacle, it was pretty good. But still, it's better than all boss fights. Tomb Lord is not better, bro. Tomb Lord is not better. Shut up.
Finally beat Path of Exile.
Oh, I'm not saying. I'm saying better than D4. Of course, it's not the best. Kitava is not the best fight in the PoE by any means. I would give the best boss fight in PoE to probably. I want to maybe say. I'm not saying the most difficult. It's probably going to be Shaper or Uber Elder. It's going to be Shaper or Uber Elder. I think those are the coolest ones. It's either Shaper or Uber Elder. Yeah, not Uber. All the Uber fights are shit. They're all bad. I think that I actually don't like the Uber design of the game. I hope that they don't go down the Uber route. I hope they just make it harder. Just make all in-game harder and more niche. Right? No, it's not hard. It's just Uber. The way that I talked to the guys who designed the boss, and they said, yeah, the Uber bosses are rushed, and yeah, they don't like that. It's just huge multipliers and just 1,000 projectiles. They said if they could have, they'd rather design bespoke, super ultra hard end bosses, which is way better. This is coming from someone who's killed all Ubers in the HCSSF chat. This is coming from someone who's killed all Ubers in HCSSF. Okay, they'd much prefer to design a boss that's extremely hard that only a fraction of the community ever kills. This is just getting a boss that already exists, adding 500% damage onto it and 20 projectiles onto it. It's just like that's just bad game design. But hey, it does give players access to pinnacle content. I prefer Uber boss fights exist over not having Uber boss fights. I just think I think it's lazy though. I think it's lazy. You're better off creating true pinnacle content that is not just like same boss with they just get the thing and just turn up the damage by 1,000,000. That you're better off designing a really hard boss that's just mechanically insanely hard and super punishing, right? Shit like that. Just better design, and I'm hoping that's the route they go down in PoE 2.
It's tutorial.
Wait.
Path of Exile. It's tutorial.
Okay.
Now the real game begins.
Okay.
Kitava was a little bitch compared to what's on the horizon. There's an infinite number of worlds out there, and they're all being threatened by various forces beyond comprehension. And that's not just because they're mostly eldritch abominations, but because understanding the character and gear progression required to fight them is harder than understanding Raelian. So that begs the question, what build should we play? Honestly, that's up to you. There's always a handful of meta builds that are popular, but there's a guide out there for almost every skill. And that's what makes this game so unique. Want to set people on fire by being literally holier than thou? Righteous Fire. Want to summon dozens of floating skulls to nibble through your enemies like a swarm of angry piranhas? Summon Raging Spirits. Want to be more caustic than a Call of Duty lobby? Toxic Rain. Want to have no fucking clue what's going on? Flicker Strike. There's a near endless combination of skills and classes to choose from, but it really comes down to what you think will be fun and what you can budget. Time to get on that Sigma femboy grind set. The real goal for this game is to get rich and die trying. Your budget for a build will depend on how many Chaos, Divines, and Mirrors you can amass in a reasonable amount of time. What are those things? Well, they're the gold standard for player trade and 3 of several dozen currencies in Path of Exile. I assume the devs set it up this way because New Zealand runs on some similar unhinged exchange system. So what is value? Everything.
No, we just our entire economy is based off like NA, but then we made our own like currency, which is just no, not really. It'd be cool if we did bartering over there. It'd be cool if we did that.
In Path of Exile has a rarity and difficulty of acquisition, which, along with how desired or meta it is in a given league, will determine its value. Now, this may sound like I'm saying there is a stock market-like economy built around this game. Well, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And just like the Canadian housing market, it's mostly speculative, and you probably can't afford shit. If you make it this far in your first league and you want to go further,
what
you should.
Stock market? What's the? I mean, there's a market. And the values of items go up and down based on a bunch of factors. Okay, I don't think you speculate. It's pretty much every league. Divine Orb go up. That's it. That's the speculation, bro. There it is. And that's just because the die-knob go up.
Should plan your budget to be
outside of very rare leagues where the economy has like some sort of, it has some weird mechanic which fucks with the economy in some way, right? Yeah.
At most a few hundred chaos to maybe 5 divines if you're feeling spicy. Mirrors are right out. Don't even look at them. As far as you're concerned, they don't exist. But why do these currencies have value? How do they help us with the end game? Well, welcome to the true boss of Path of Exile. The crafting system. I have 2 degrees from one of Canada's most universities, and I still barely understand crafting in this game. But that's not going to stop me from passing along misinformation to you though, dear viewer. So, for Shaper's sake, take everything I'm about to say with enough grains of salt to season a hardcore player's death. Items have a fixed number of modifier slots on them called affixes, which are split between prefixes and suffixes. Usually 3 each, but some have less or different amounts. What type of affixes can appear on an item depend on that item's type. Most affixes have tiers. The lower the tier, the better the stat range. The possible tiers also depend on the item's level, with higher item levels allowing lower tiers to roll. All affixes have different weights that can determine how likely they are to appear. However, through the dark art of crafting, we can change those weights in our favor. At the end of all of this, just remember the chance—
It's not dank! Why are you going way too dank? It's so simple! It's so simple! But you understand that an item is just a bunch of explicit affixes, right? And you've got some prefixes and some suffixes, and there's implicit sometimes. It's so simple. It's so simple. It really isn't that hard. Don't way too dank. It's not way too dank. Dude, I hate that. People, it's because it's bad. It puts people off PoE whenever they might play it.
Resonators, essences, spam, beasts, and many more. But everything comes back to chaos, divines, and exalted orbs. The market reason for this, like most things, is unfortunately math, but it's mostly attributed to things like metacrafting, chaos sinks, and some other stuff I just don't have the care to explain.
I feel like metacrafting is the most confusing crafting in PoE, and that genuinely, yes. When you try and explain metacrafting to someone, and you try and explain how it works, like where you basically abuse a metacrafting system to get deterministic outcomes, that's when now you can way too dank at that. But guess what, chat? You don't have to do metacrafting. You could just buy some item that some other guy metacrafted, and then you pay a little tax because he spent the time to do it. You don't have to metacraft.
Explain at you. So how does one go about obtaining all these fancy crafting resources? Well, it's time to finally talk about— Oh, did you think we were done with graphs? You delicious buffoon, we're just getting started. The Atlas of Worlds is our endgame progression system. Like the skill tree, this might look a little daunting, but it's not that bad, at least until we start throwing stones at it. The Atlas is made up of maps. A map is a specific area that gets procedurally generated when opened with the map device. Each map has a tier which determines the level of monsters in it. The higher the tier, the stronger the monsters, the more difficult the map, but the more rewarding the loot. The tiers go from 1 to 16 for the standard maps, with a special tier 17 being used for—
I'm bent to my will.
As we clear—
Yo, just delete T17s, bro. Delete them.
Maps, we can do bonus objectives, which get harder as our maps change color. Completing this bonus objective yields a funny—
Or rework them. Either delete them or rework them, bro. You know, at the end of the day. There's your 2 options.
New type of point. Whatever could that be for, I wonder? Hold on, let me get the boss music again. And here we have the Atlas passive skill tree. Last graph, I swear. Remember all those old League mechanics I mentioned at the start of the video? Well, here they are, but on steroids. This is where you can customize what you find most fun in Path of Exile and exploit it for profit. There is a ton of League mechanics to choose from, but here's a brief rundown of my personal favorites. Expedition adds a fun cast of characters to your map who benefit from your cheap foreign labor. Harbingers adds the Blue Man group, but now the music is just— Betrayal turns this meme into a mechanic. Ritual adds a gambling window to our gambling simulator. Incursion adds Elva, who tells us there are riches in an Aztec temple, enabling a Christopher Columbus playthrough. And Blight turns the game into a tower defense, which attacks your frame rate more than your character. And those are just a handful. There is so much variety to choose from. So
you know, Chad, I used to be— what the hell?
Make like a frame rate more than your character. And those are just—
I used to be quite offended by this, and it used to piss me off quite a lot. The Atlas passive tree. And it was because it overused maps to the point where it was kind of ridiculous, and then the fact that you're basically stupid to ever run a mechanic if it wasn't spec'd into it, so then you would have to respec your Atlas tree constantly because you don't, and then you would be punished for doing other content that you didn't have spec'd in. But you know what? I've kind of just become, you know, the hedonistic treadmill's ran its course, and have just become accustomed to there being maps just having fuck tons of juice in them now, and now I've just kind of got used to that. And then now we got like 4 different skill trees or whatever. You can have like your 4 different main glyphs that you run, and you can switch between them. So now it's far better than it used to be. But initial implementation of the Atlas skill tree, bro, honestly, I felt like it was a net negative to the game. And now it's at a state where it's probably a slight positive. Probably a slight positive. I hope in PoE 2, if they have one of these, it's less ridiculous. I hope the ridiculousness is less. I hope it doesn't like... Because right now, what's the difference between having a thing fully spec versus having no point spec into it? Like, is it 5 times as good? 10 times as good? Sometimes it's like infinity times as good. Like, it literally doesn't work unless you have it spec'd. Like, it's pointless doing the mechanic. Like, literally, it has some node that enables something that will not function unless you have it spec. You know, it's massive, right? And that's, you know, which is, I don't know. Whereas I would rather it is less. You know, so you don't feel like so bad for doing a mechanic that you don't have spec'd. You know? Because right now, but, hey, or they just give us, like, infinite Atlas passive trees, and then we just... The thing is, if you're going... The question is this, chat. If every time you're going to do a mechanic, you are 100% going to make a tree and spec into it and use it, then why even have the tree in the first place? Because you're not even making a choice, are you, really? You know, that's my question. Right? So, you know, isn't that just bad design? Like, that's my question. That was my argument for this is my Giga argument was for endgame increasing drops from bosses, and I would attack that every single league until the point where they ended up taking it out, because let's be honest, it was obvious they needed to do that, which was like you know, getting Watchstone drops increased from doing Elders. You would never do your Elders unless you were spec into it, so then you literally would never run it without specking it ever. There was no use case. Well, you might not. So, and that was just, again, terrible design, right? Which is, you know, it's really hard to get this right, and I don't know where it is, but I feel like right now I think this Atlas skill tree is still too overtuned in my opinion.
Just a handful. There was so much variety to choose from, so make like a sexually curious college student and try a bit of everything. And a little advice on mechanic farming. Don't get swept up in what some people tell you is optimal or best. There's good strategies for almost everything, but the only wrong way to play Path of Exile is one where you're not having fun. Now, as we progress our Atlas, we may start to encounter anomalies. The Envoy here, on top of sounding like chill hip-hop speak to study and relax to, warns us of a few of the endgame baddies that we're going to run up against as we enter red maps. Mini bosses like the mukbang YouTuber and Lady Gaga both require boss knowledge to beat, like how to navigate the Taco Bell swamp attack, but with a little gumption and some decent gear, they shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now, firmly planted in red maps, we can look to the top of the Atlas passive tree, and here we can see the pinnacle bosses of Path of Exile: Cirrus, the Awakener, the Searing Exarch, the Eater of Worlds, Cortex, the Shaper, and the Elder, and finally, the
Time contorts.
If we're gonna have any chance at defeating these big bads, we're gonna need a real build with real gear. It's gonna take hundreds of maps.
See, I think pinnacle bosses should be a footnote, right? Like if you're playing pinnacle bosses and like a worst guide to PoE, pinnacle bosses are a footnote in the game. Like if you're looking at playing PoE, pinnacle bosses should not be at all weighted in your decision making. You don't need to worry about pinnacle bosses. That's some shit for autists who have played the game for 10,000 hours. Legit. If you're like, I need to play PoE and kill the pinnacle bosses. No, that's stupid. Just doing the base game, bro. Like, just doing the campaign is sick enough. And then just doing, like, dude, just Shaper, bro. Lit. That's honestly, bro, in terms of PoE, I think it peaks. The game is peaking at killing Shaper and Uber Elder. Around there. That's the peak. That's the peak.
And the items necessary to trade or craft our stuff. This means the faster we can blast through maps, the faster we can get to these pinnacles of PoE prestige. Mapping in Path of Exile is a balancing act between offense, defense, and speed. Now, me personally, I live and die a lot by the notion that the best way to mitigate enemy damage is to never let them attack in the first place, which is why I stack move and attack speed and play Flicker Strike builds. Look at that clarity of combat. This is what is known as a 6-portal defense. You paid for 6 portals, you might as well use all of them.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
Now that we've hit red maps and we've filled out our skill and atlas tree, it's time to really scale our maps. In order to have a better chance at finding valuable items, we need to juice harder than a TikTok fitness influencer. You can do this by spending crafting currency on your maps by using scarabs, chisels, etc, etc. Just make sure that when you're rolling mods on your map, you roll ones that your build
Yo,
can handle.
W's in the chat for GGG and removing sextants though. Hey, W's in the chat for removing sextants. Straight up.
Why won't you die?
You don't want to run
Fuck
an Ellie
sessions.
reflect map and die instantly. That would be super embarrassing.
Good change.
No longer poor, we can engage with player-to-player trading, assuming you're in one of the trade leagues. If you're in solo self-found, then I suggest you get a certificate of competence from Craft of Exile before wasting all your chaos trying to roll an affix that can't appear on the gear you're crafting. Otherwise, the trade site is about to become your new addiction. Oh, it'll start off small, a ring upgrade here, a skill gem there, but before long, you'll have several active searches running while riding a near-lethal dose of Ritalin, so you can buy a crappy cluster jewel base at 10C under market value before Scraperbot does. And when you get that invite, you will ride that high until you reach the seller's hideout and get flashbanged by their trash.
That's classic, dude. Yo, this is a good. This is like part of the PoE experience, isn't it, bro? I feel like it is. This is like literally. This is a rite of passage to the PoE life, bro. Straight up. Wait, I was about to make a point though. Shit!
Waifus bare ass and or
I got distracted.
feet. Speaking of trash, it's time for a loot filter. We won't be picking up 99% of the items that hit the floor, so hit up Never Sink Skill.
Oh, wait. This is it. This is what I was gonna say. Yo, how come we live in a world where to find out the fucking affixes that can roll on an item, we have to go to a third-party website, right? How come there isn't like on an item you can hold Alt and then press like a question mark or something to see all possible affixes that can roll and what tiers? That's bullshit. I'm gonna say it. That's stupid. There should be, bro, in my opinion, you should have to press a key down, whatever it is. It could be a rare key, could be a key combo, could be like Control Alt, could be whatever the fuck they want to make it for like advanced users, where they can go on an item and they can press a button and it will tell you the possible affixes that can roll, and then you can have a breakdown of the percentages chances of it rolling, right? Like just like, you know, just natty when you're cast opening it. Legitimate, like some basically just potential affixes, the tiers they are, the chances they have of rolling. Really simple, and then you can see it, and you don't have to question like, wait, is it high enough eye level for it to roll this tier? You don't have to like PoEDB item mods, scroll down, click thing, open thing, drop down menu. Like it should be in the game, bro. It should be in the game, and I hope it's in PoE 2. I hope it's in PoE 2.
Ultrablade.xyz and download the basic loot filters. Nothing triggers that dopamine spike like that iconic tink sound anyway. Oh, that's the stuff. As you get better and figure out what mechanics you find fun, you can customize this to the beach and back, but for now, just stick with the basic filters. If you
Yo, hire Neversink as well for PoE 2. Hire him. Hire Neversink and let him like make a proper loot filter for PoE 2 that just gets constantly updated. Like a baseline default loot filter for hardcore and softcore. Straight up. He doesn't want to. Well, he said no. Okay, whatever. Hire someone like Neversink. Get someone to do what he does. Again, third party. I don't like that you have to have third party shit. Right? Just get someone to do what he does. No one can. Are you kidding me? What do you mean no one can? So, of course people can, bro. What do you mean? Like, there is none. You can definitely do it. Thing is, you don't want to like cuck Neversink, right? You want to give him the opportunity to work on it though, right? You know, because he's obviously the guy, so it makes sense that you would get him. Like you could, he's the only one who's capable of making a fucking loot filter. Okay, dude.
you haven't been filtered out of the player base by this point, then it's time for the ultimate tool. Any PoE player worth their salt needs Path of Building. This isn't optional. Path of Building allows us to simulate any build you or an Adderall Field community member can hallucinate. Can't decide between two passives on the tree? POB it. Want to know if that item is an upgrade? POB it. Want to crack the seed number required for a timeless jewel? F***ing POB it. This is the real video game. Path of Exile is simply a tool to test your Path of Building creation. So, now that we're decked out, let's pay those pinnacle bosses a visit. Hit it.
Don't POB too hard, boys. Nah, don't POB too hard. Don't test you. Don't do that. Now, bad logic. POB, in my opinion, should be a something that allows you to flesh out a concept. Don't over POB, because then it ruins the mystery. You're going to already figure out what you need to do in the end game and exactly how to itemize, and your character journey will be cut short. Just flesh out a basic skeleton and then raw dog. Okay? Flesh out a basic skeleton, then raw dog, bro. Straight up. Go in, figure out what's wrong with it in the game. Modify. Implement that modification, see what happens. Modify again. And then, you know, you get to a point where the character's fully online. You had like the dopamine hit of like coming up with an idea, making the character in the game, optimizing the character. And then when you're at a point where the character's OP, be like, how do I make it more OP? Then put that character into POB and see if you can't min-max it a little bit more. That's the best, dude. Bro, I don't make the rules. This is the best way to play PoE. It's the best way to play PoE. It's the best way to play PoE. You don't want to over PoB. Oh shit.
Pinnacle bosses are difficult and will take some practice. That said, they have fairly clear and telegraphed attacks that usually have an audio component that'll let you know what's coming. Some of these audio cues are even kind of infamous, like Cirrus's Die Beam, or the Eater's Hunger Slam, or
It will not be an escape.
Hey, mate. The lit dude. Bro, GGG, listen to me right now, bro. I'm going to complain and I'm going to bitch to no end, bro. I'm going to complain so hard. I want to complain so... If you put a fucking memory game into PoE 2 into one of the main boss fights of the game, bro, oh, man, I'm going to be perma-bitching, bro. The Maven 2, bro, oh, my God. Dude, dear Clarisse Wilson and Jonathan... dear Chris Wilson, please don't let there be any memory games in PoE 2. It's unfair to the dyslexic community, okay, and people who have brain damage. Signed, Quin69. Amen. There it is. All right.
spend enough time in the Atlas and something funny happens. We're well past the point of being able to clear difficult maps. Hell, we can defeat any boss, and yet we continue to make it harder on ourselves. We're not doing this to win anymore. We won a long time ago. We chose the path of Sisyphus and asked for a bigger boulder. Cirrus and the conquerors of the Atlas weren't a warning, they were an aspiration. We're not playing for victory. We're playing for big numbers and even bigger memes. Remember those tier 17 maps? Well, upon completion, they can drop a fragment. Collect all the pieces and you can gain access to an Uber encounter. Uber bosses have more health, deal more damage, have more damage reduction, augmented mechanics, and more importantly, have a special item drop pool. Some of the best items in the game only drop from the Uber version of Pinnacle bosses. However, more often than not, you're going to get trash. But hey, that's PoE, baby. So how do we deal with this railroad spike through the head in difficulty? By pushing our build to its absolute limit. I'm talking more defense than when I gave a coworker constructive criticism. I'm talking more offense than when Australia decided it didn't like emus. I'm talking Tier 0
they lost, by the way.
Uniques.
They lost.
Tier 0 uniques are the rarest items in Path of Exile outside of mirror tier rares. Some of them are so powerful that entire builds can be crafted around just a single one. Of these chase items, Mage Blood is one of the most sought after.
That's the most cringe one.
One.
Okay, like that's a cool one. Unique that you build around that's interesting and cool and that you min-max into it, that's badass. That's sweet. That's poggers. Ones that are just generically overpowered that work on any build, you slap it on and your character's just broken, dude. What are you doing, mate? What are you doing, mate? Nah, fuck Mage Blood, bro. Nah, fuck Mage Blood. What's that one boots with the charges though? Reliquish, those are good. Reliquish boots,
chase
those are good.
items, Mage Blood is one of the most sought after.
Reliquish boots?
For several leagues.
Well, because you're legal Reliquish boots, you got to build into charges and you build into charge stacking and you got to optimize your build. Reliquish boots work with far less builds. Mage Bloods work with far more builds, is what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Since its introduction, it's been one of the most expensive uniques in any given league, and the only way to obtain it is to grind harder than a stripper trying to break out of ELO hell. Now, you can do endgame content without these items, but that's not why you're here.
You don't need a Mage Blood.
And I know, again with the tiers, we've got more tiers.
Okay, I got like 12, 13, 14,000 hours, and I never had a Mage Blood. How many hours I got? I got a lot of hours. Never owned a Mage Blood. Never want to. Never plan on doing it. Could get a Mage Blood every league. Don't want one. Could get a Mage Blood every league. Don't want one. Haven't got it. Don't need one. That's just incorrect. Incorrect. Like, I do not think PoE, you need to be aiming for Mage Bloods or you need to be aiming for Uber Pinnacle bosses at all. I think that's like for the people who have autism, who just want to, who've been playing the game way too much and just have got nothing to do. Literally, that's it.
Than a wedding cake baked by a coke fiend. But don't stress too much about these ultra rare.
Legitimately, chat. The game is peaking in red maps. And if you get there, you're going to enjoy the most of what PoE has to offer. That's the game. The game is, that's like the starting a guy up, getting through, getting your character online, getting your concept fleshed out, making it work, solving the problems. It's peaking at red maps.
Items. The build I've been using for most of this video costs like 10 divines and is hardcore viable. Too bad I'm not. But if we're gonna do this, we may as well farm currency like we're trying to buy a price-inflated Big Mac and push our sword-based persuasion as far as we can. And now, with that finally out of the way, we can discuss her. Well, there is arguably no real final boss in Path of Exile, and there are harder enemies than things like Deep Delve. The Maven is widely regarded as the final test in Path of Exile. The nascent eldritch entity, she is a child, we do not lose the Maven, wants to figure out what life is and does this by slamming her toys together until they break. The only problem is that we're the toys. She collects other bosses for fun. The Maven can be summoned to any map to increase that map boss's difficulty, and after defeating it, it will be stored away in an invitation for later. Early, this means you'll have to fight a handful of bosses at once, but later, it's 10 enhanced map bosses more or less back to back to back. But who cares about the standard map bosses at this point? Like I said, we can defeat any boss. Well, it isn't just the standard map bosses that interest her. Special bosses like the Shaper's Prisoners, Cirrus's Elder Slayers, or even Cortex's Creations are all fair game. And these four-way fights can get more intense than Thanksgiving political discussion and only slightly less violent. But even that's not enough for the Maven, because not even the pinnacle bosses are safe. Atziri, Cortex, Chayula, and even the Shaper and the Elder cannot escape her grasp. But it's not like we have to fight them all at once, right?
You don't need to. You don't need to. Again, this is for the 0.001% of the community. It's a meme. It's not good content. It's bad content. Like, they just put a bunch of bosses in a little circle. That's bad. That's not good content.
Alright, time to finally beat the Uber Maven so that I can post this video and have Chris give me my streamer client. I just hope that I can dodge the most difficult attack in the game.
The part with the blue lines is the hardest, bro. It's the little blue line zone. Oh my god, there's a ball. Oh my god.
The living toy must enjoy our
Worth it, bro.
contests.
Worth it.
Path of Exile is a spreadsheet-based gambling addiction that should be avoided at all costs. It will cause you to watch entire videos of someone talking over a notepad or spreadsheet document and think, yo, this looks sick, I can't wait to try it. And just like watching One Piece, it only gets good after several hundred hours. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I love poring over the novel-length patch notes every league start.
1,800 hours only, bro? 1,800 only, bro? To be honest, that's impressive, though. Do you know what? When YouTubers normally play the game, they normally just go like, look at PoE, way too dank. And then they play the game for like fuck all and they don't really do much. Yeah, whereas this guy's done, he logged in, he played a nice Reliquish charge stacking Gladiator Bleed setup. You know, it's good. And he killed the Ubers, which I'm impressed. Impressive. Even if it's softcore trade, still pretty good. Still pretty good. I'm impressed. Impressive. Impressive.
start and then going to Reddit so I can be told why this is the worst thing to ever happen. I love reading the nerfs and getting gaslit by Zizarin as to why this is good, actually. I love ignoring both of those things and then playing Flicker Strike again.
This complains. What are you talking about? Not even, bro. What are you talking? ZZ right? Not even, dude. He does the opposite.
Just having a glorious time. At its heart, Path of Exile is an amazing ARPG that has some of the deepest customization you could ever ask for. There's so many different ways to customize your gameplay on so many different levels, it's honestly kind of crazy. Players will often optimize the fun out of their own gameplay, but Path of Exile is one of those rare games where optimization is part of the fun. Now, this game is free to
Min-maxing,
pay.
baby.
You can absolutely enjoy everything this game has to offer without spending any money, but it's a lot more fun and convenient if you buy a few stash tabs. I have seen a lot of scummy microtransactions in video games, but with Path of Exile, it really feels earned. Every league brings excellent content for free and quality of life features, mostly in the forms of RSI reduction. I'm usually happy to drop some money on this game every couple of leagues or so because the devs absolutely deserve it. If you really enjoy this game, I would recommend getting a currency tab and a map tab and then deciding for yourself if you want to invest any more.
Bro, just get every affinity tab straight up. Get all the natty affinity tabs. It just like sorts all your shit out for you. It may not even be the most efficient way to play the game because I know a lot of the super try guys don't actually use all the affinity tabs because they want like dumb tabs for some stuff. But like if you've got autism, you like things to be sorted out. It's just nice to like know where everything's going. You know, it's just nice. You definitely do it.
Up a stash tab sale every few weeks, so keep an eye out for that before buying. And if you really like this game, then buy yourself some drip and lose that yee ass armor set. Finally, let's talk about some actually good players. The community around this game is one of the best, and honestly, you pretty much can't go wrong with just going to the PoE Twitch page and then picking a random person. The landlord and the tenant are both wonderful and have Bert and Ernie energy. Zizarin puts out fantastic guides every league start and should be the first stop for any newer player looking to get into Path of Exile. Steelmage, on the other hand, is great because he details his hardcore character's progression throughout the course of a league and implements interesting builds. Empyrean Gaming is where you should go if you want to see the absolutely insane limits of what Path of Exile gameplay can look like. His group usually finds a way to break the new league in half within the first few days, and it's always entertaining to watch. He also puts out great guides for mid to late game farming that are very worth checking out. And finally, I have to shout out my favorite robotic communist, Mage Fist, for indoctrinating me into the Church of Flicker Strike and finding a way to make Path of Exile guides visually interesting to look at. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for making it to the end.
You're my real friends, hate-filled strangers.
More videos to come, so I'd love to hear your thoughts
I've never watched
in the comments. I've really enjoyed being bullied into playing RimWorld, so keep those recommendations coming. Until next time, have a great day and stay safe out there.
This video was, I liked the depth that he went into. You know, it wasn't like he just like played PoE for like 8 hours. You know, obviously I don't agree with all his points, but generally speaking, pretty accurate, pretty W video all around. Little bit Coco Melon for me. I'm a person who tries to comprehend and understand every single reference in every single, and it was like every 1 second it was a cut, and it kept adding references, and I had to keep like wait, he did that. Why is he doing that? And I need to look at all the. Little bit too fast for me. But I mean, I can only imagine how long this took to edit.
Because he is God Gamer.